maximize every opportunity so that you can become legendary.
What adjustments can you make right now to make yourself 1%
Your
better?
only goal is to be the best version of you.
Steve Failing.
Hey, Brad.
AKA my dad. Welcome to Becoming Legendary.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I have no idea what to expect, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I have no idea how I'm going to answer your questions or talk either. So let's get it on.
Good. We're in the same boat then. Perfect. So the title of this podcast is called, or not this one specifically, but sort of the lineage of this lane of podcasts in the Becoming Legendary series is called the Yogic Path. So I'll just dive right into it. What does the Yogic Path mean to someone like yourself who was born in 1946?
Correct.
Yeah, so that makes you 74 right now?
Going to be 75 in November.
Good. Yeah, it's so what does you've witnessed your son sort of walk this yogic path over the past, call it 4 or 5 years now, call it 5 years. What does it I'd just like to see from your perspective, what exactly that means to you? What does the yogic path mean to you?
Okay. Well, first of all, being from my generation, we weren't much into yoga at all. I mean, we never even thought about it, quite frankly. And so what I've seen so far is a good transformation of you from where you were, and mentally and spiritually. I think you've come a long way. Now, is that down the yogic path, or is that just something you've changed? I suspect it's got to be from the yogic path, because nothing else in your life has changed. I think you've matured, but nothing else has changed besides that. So, I mean, I'm quite pleased with what I've seen. But as far as what does it mean to me, still doesn't mean much except the transformation that you've made, because I haven't gone on a yogic path, quite frankly. I mean, I still who I am when my generation still controls a lot of how I think and what I do.
I understand.
And it was totally different back then. Everything was different back then. Society has evolved considerably. Politics is involved considerably. Business is involved. People have evolved. I mean, it's just a whole different sphere within the world of what it was back then. So,
yeah, I think you touched on two things I'd like to circle back to, and the first thing was the spirituality piece, and the second thing was the mental piece, right? So the yoga, the word, it means to yoke or union, right? To bring things together. So marrying the mental sort of piece and the spirituality piece, I think those were two pieces that were so far opposite playing fields for me, right? There was no sort of merging of the two, no understanding of what really it meant to be spiritual and what really it meant to be mentally fit, if you will, mentally fit. So I think the yogic, what you're seeing from the outside could be maybe something like the definition of yoga, right? We're linking those two things together. Yeah.
Sounds right. I mean, again, nothing else changed in your life, so I have to assume that's what it was. Linking those two things together and put you on a better path than where you were.
Yeah. So to go back sort of the history of yoga, when you were born in 1946, just wanted to catch the listeners up here on sort of when was the first time you heard of the word yoga? Was it with my journey, or was there any sort of time growing up in the 60s, 70s, that period of time that you ever heard of anybody practicing yoga?
Well, you heard about it, but it was certainly at one end of the spectrum.
And which end is that?
The opposite end of where I was, quite frankly.
Okay.
If you want to know the truth, the opposite end of where I was.
And what end were you on then? Because I think that's relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, what end was I on? I was probably, if you look at a center, I was to the right of center, and I would consider people that practice yoga to the left of center. They were more spiritual even back then. I would look at them that way, and I was more in the day.
In the day.
Of, you know, very, and I think very structured. When I came up, when I was raised, and it was very structured back then. Business was structured, school was structured.
Sure.
There seemed to be a lot less free thinking back then. Even though we had a lot of good ideas and things like that, it just wasn't expressed as easily back then as it is now.
Nor did information travel as quickly as it does now.
There's no question about that.
Right.
I mean, my gosh, that's what's changed the world is communications by far from when I came up. I mean, you know, think about this now. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. You know, we had calculators. We had slide rules because I'm an engineer, right, by education.
Sure.
Not that I've ever practiced being an engineer.
I understand.
But, you know, it was a whole different ball game back then about how you communicated and how you analyzed things and the data you had available to you, which, you know, is totally different now. And I think that's changed the way people think.
Sure.
Because you got so much more data to assimilate.
Sure.
And to think about.
Yeah.
Than you did back then. So
that's a good point.
It was very interesting transition. I mean, I'm glad I was part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made more progress in my lifetime than I think any other lifetime.
Yeah. More rapidly, exponentially growing.
Exponentially, no question about it.
I think there's an important thing that you touched on there that I would like to sort of revisit again is the fact that there seemed to be back when you were growing up two lanes, right? There was the quote unquote spirituality lane, which was less talked about, less focused on, and then it was the religious path, right? So and of course there's a component of spirituality with religion, but the specific dogma of religion, right? That sort of path, was that one that you saw yourself in and out of, or was that? Or the question really becomes, where in your growing up space did you focus on spirituality, or was that really a focus of your extended adolescent time?
Well, you got to remember, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
We were very religious.
Church on every Sunday. Altar boy.
I went to mass every day for 8 years during school. I went to parochial school. So, and we had religion class every day in school. So, and your grandmother, my mom, was a converted Catholic, and there's nothing more strict and stringent about the religion than a converted Catholic.
Yes.
So she was very religious. Now, spirituality, I think I did drift away from the church. As I grew older.
Is there a reason why?
Yeah, I think I think the church, I was more of a conservative Catholic, I guess. I believed in the strict rules of the church. And I think the church has been evolving away from what I would consider the strict rules, the way I was brought up, the rules of the church, way I was brought up, versus what it's going to now. I think religion has been influenced by politics and by environmental issues, whether right or wrong. I mean, it's gone that way. And it certainly wasn't the case when I was growing up. I mean, you went to mass, the mass was said in Latin. You know, we were altar boys. We responded to the priest in Latin.
Yeah, wow.
And everything. And nowadays it's totally different. The Pope has become, and the Catholic Church has become very religious. I'm saying not religious, very political.
I don't mean to make light of this, but I think the Pope has his own Instagram page now too.
Well, he may.
I mean, do you know what I mean? So he's able to reach that demographic.
Exactly. Now, whether or not, you know, is that good or bad? I don't think the world is as religious as it used to be, and I don't think it looks at a higher being the way we used to. You know, every religion has its own higher being, you know, being Allah or God or Jesus Christ or whatever you want to define it, we were much more focused on that individual or that spirit, the God, the Jesus Christ, the Allah back then. I think a lot of the Muslim faith still is very focused on Allah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the Western civilization has drifted away from focusing on a spirit or a God or Jesus Christ.
Right. Anybody specific, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Looking at a specific spirit per se.
Yeah. I think, it becomes one of these things where you have either the full access to a religion, or you're getting bits and pieces of it, getting chunks along the way. From me growing up specifically, I felt I went to a Catholic school, I went to Sunday school, and there was a resistance to it that I felt that it just didn't feel to me, didn't feel heart-centered. It felt more of a just a strict thing that my parents told me I had to do, right? So for me, spirituality growing up was, I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what spirituality really meant. There was a component of me that had to go to church on Sundays, and I did that because my parents told me to, and I was no other reason other than that, maybe so I could see a friend there or whatever, but there was no incentive for me to go. It wasn't until mom passed, until I was forced to look inward, that I felt any sort of connection to God. And what I'm sort of discovering on this yogic path as I move through my life is that I am a manifestation of God. So in other words, God lives inside of me. I am God. Don't take that the wrong way, listeners out there. I'm not claiming that I am God by any means. I'm also suggesting that you out there listening are a representation of God as well. So it's interesting to me how everything has sort of come full circle now, where there's less of a religious tone to things, and there's more of this openness, like an open forum where people can pick and choose what works best for them. And here's the caveat: the piece that I really think that we've moved out of and away from and expanded beyond was the fact that, like, if you're a Catholic, then you have to hang out with these type of people. If you're Jewish, then you have to hang out with these people. So I think there's been a sort of a meshing of that as we've continued to prosper and evolve as a society. Do you specifically, when you look at my practices, when you look at someone who's been on this yogic path for so long, are there things that you notice that you've picked up and applied to your life, maybe consciously or unconsciously? Just wanted to throw that out there for you. Or things that,
No, are there certain things? It's an interesting question. Remember, again, I'm going to go back a little bit. The religion for my generation, at least early on my generation, was very structured, right? I mean, you had, like in the Catholic Church, you had the 10 Commandments, you had communion, you had Mass, you had confession, you had all these things that you kind of had to do as part of being, quote, religious, right? Nowadays, I think people have become more spiritual than strict religious driven.
Cool.
So I think that's changed. Now, has your yogic path influenced me?
Yeah,
I think I think one thing it's done is, as far as I know, you have professed and beaten on me about eating healthy.
Yes, I have.
And I think that, and the people that know me, I was a potato chip freak. I'm a Coke freak. I mean, I grew up my whole life drinking Coke and eating potato chips, right?
Now what do you drink?
I try to drink more water. I try to drink more water. I can't say I don't slip every now and then and have a Coke, but I try to eat healthier too. I have a great partner now, JJ, who is bought into what Brian is teaching, and so we're eating very healthy and organic, and she cooks everything organic if she can, and things like that. So I think that part has changed.
That's very much part of the yogic path.
Yeah,
right. Because from a yogic perspective, you try to take something from like a holistic point of view, the whole organism, right? So what are you watching? What kind of information are you receiving? What are you eating? Like, this is input. What are you putting inside of your physical body? Because all of these things have effect on your mind, and have effect on how you show up in the world. So you're right. I think it's interesting to me that's what you picked up on, because it's something that my partner Danielle and I, who often talk about, how can we set our parents up, or how can we set our parents, our loved ones, up for success, who come from this different paradigm of thought, right? So we, just to let you into a little secret, we try to lead by example. I know that sometimes I get so passionate that my leading pours over into words more often than not. But that fills my heart with joy, because that is a good way to start on your own yogic path. Is not that I'm not trying to impress upon everybody that the yogic path is the only way. The yogic path for me has saved my life, has turned my life into struggle, or from what was struggle, depression, anxiety, lack of sleep, eating really poorly, all the things that you do, that has flipped, right? And that life has gone away, and then my life has blossomed because of these yogic principles that I live by.
Yeah. Well, you certainly tell that. I mean, your whole attitude has changed. Your personality has changed, quite frankly. I mean, I think you're much more upbeat and open now than what you were before. You were kind of closed in before.
It was.
And
that's a great awareness.
And I think that you've become much more aware of people around you. Before, you were pretty self-centered. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
Quite frankly. And I think that's a great change. And here's one thing I think about yoga, right?
Yeah.
And I think you have to be very disciplined to do yoga, which I think is great for you, because you weren't very disciplined. You weren't.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, I'm not trying to be negative. No. I don't think a lot of people were. I mean, your generation was a much different generation.
100%.
Much more. I'll do my own thing.
Yeah, I'll figure it out when I have to figure it out.
Right. Exactly. So it was a hard transition for, I think, any parent that wanted to be a good parent.
Sure.
I mean, look, there's a lot of parents out there that want to be just their best friends with their kids. That's not the way you become a parent.
I agree.
Right? So
we've just started now to blossom of true friendship after 37 years of parenting.
Right. But I think that's the way it should be.
Worked well for us.
I mean, quite frankly, parents have to set guidelines, set boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, hell, a kid can walk or do whatever he wants to. But if he knows there's a boundary out there, then he knows there's at least some constraint out there of how far he can push.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's so I think there's that structured society that we were brought up in, and less information society that we were in, that you guys evolved into, your generation evolved into, that opened so many more doors than we ever had opened to us.
100%.
From healthy, from thinking, from sexual revolution. I mean, you name it, it's different than when we were raised. So it was a hard, I think, transition.
Yeah.
For a parent to make.
If you want to talk about specifically like going to take a yoga class back when you were growing up, it would be my own sort of guesstimation that you would have to seek out an ashram, or you would have to seek out a spiritual teacher, a donation-based only class in some forest out in the middle of Wyoming or California somewhere, meaning there were very segmented places you could find the teachings of yoga. Now you drive down every corner, they got a yoga studio.
Well, you know, we called them back in my day hippies.
Hippies, sure.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
come on. And they lived in California and
Sure.
San Francisco.
Sure.
We were raised in the Midwest and on the east side of the country and a little bit into the western side, but not a great deal.
Yeah.
And it was a whole different culture.
Yeah, I can, this is reminding me of, I used to teach, well, I still teach yoga, but I used to teach 10 plus classes per week. I'm transitioning into a new job right now, which we'll go into in another podcast. But for this story's sake, I've taught a lot of students similar to your age, and a lot of the students that I've had the blessing of teaching, they come in with such an open mind, right? Not knowing really what to expect.
Yeah.
And when they do start to cultivate a better relationship, mind, body, spirit, that connection, mind, body, spirit, breath, if you will, all those four things tie into each other. I get a lot of reactions when people come out of the class like, I'm not sure what just happened, but I think I like it.
Yeah.
And I think I want to try that again.
Yeah.
And I think you've had similar experiences with a few of the classes that I've had the luxury and opportunity to teach you. And so are there any sort of highlights for you in this path that I've taken that have brought you maybe in a better connection with me, or maybe even a better connection with your partner, or with Beth, who's my sister, who's my father's daughter, so I just wanted to phrase it like that.
Yeah, I think there's a better connection between you and I.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
It starts with communication, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. We wouldn't be having this conversation 5 years ago, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm sitting really close. It almost feels uncomfortable, but it feels really right.
Yeah.
It feels really good. It feels connected.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to take your answer away from you, but,
No, it's okay.
but that connection piece is something that I've really felt.
I don't think there's a question. I think I've had after your mom, my wife passed away. I think you and your sister had a great connection to Mom. And I think we both, all three of us, or at least my relationship with the two of you has grown much closer. I mean, there for a while, I felt like I had to be a dad and a mom at the same time, which was difficult.
Yeah.
And difficult for your kids too, right? But I think that out of bad things come good things. So, the very bad thing that happened, but there were some good things that came out of it. So
Sure.
From that perspective, I think. But from back to how has yoga affected me?
Yeah.
I don't know if it has too much.
Okay.
At least not that I know of. I mean, I'm being perfectly frank now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone some of your classes. I enjoy them. I'm not very disciplined when it comes to things like that. I've worked hard in my 40 years, like many other people in my generation, right?
That's where your discipline, I was taught discipline through your work effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Work mentality.
Through the way you approached your work,
Right.
I was shown what discipline looks like.
Right.
It took me a long time to apply the discipline that I learned as a child to my own life, but that was where I saw. So I would argue that you have the discipline inside of you. It's just it would be a matter of switching where you choose to place your focus on.
Exactly.
Now you choose to place it on the golf course, or
Right.
place it with time alone with your partner, with friends, which is beautiful in and of itself.
See, that's,
Yeah.
I guess get back to my point I was disciplined for so long that now I appreciate that I don't have to be disciplined. I have free time. I'm retired, right? I'm enjoying life as a retiree.
Yes.
I don't like schedules. I shouldn't say structure. I don't like schedules now.
Yeah.
The biggest schedule I have in my life is I got to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to play golf.
And that's it.
3 times a week, and that's it. And sometimes my partner plans dinners out with friends and things like that, and even that's too much for me. But once you get there, it's fun. You enjoy the company and things like that. But I like being away from that structure because 40 years, man, I 8 in the morning till 6 or 7 at night was taken up with meetings or work or what have you, travel.
Sure.
And so it was all scheduled. Your life was scheduled.
How did you seek stillness then? Because from my observations of you growing up, I'm asking you this question because I have an answer in my mind already cultivated. So for me, cultivating stillness, no distractions, no cell phone, no TV, no paper, no wife, nothing, no dogs, just me and my breath. And I cultivate stillness every single day. In the morning with my meditation, and sometimes even in the afternoon if I feel my mind has a lot of chitta, mind stuff going on. So you were very, very successful in your career, and I look up to the way that you sought out growth, sought out uncomfortable situations, and was able to thrive in those situations in your business workings. So, but along the way, how did you, in your own mind, seek forms of stillness? Because all that momentum, all of that constant doing, you had to find some time just to simply be, to balance that out. Because you wouldn't have been so successful if you only had the side of the coin do going. I mean, that's how it appeared sometimes. But my goodness, there was always that. You always have the amazing ability to switch off the work mode and bring it back to family mode, bring it back to that balance mode. So how were you able to cultivate stillness in your life?
Well, you have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, else you'll go drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
And maybe it was unconscious for you. I'm curious, but how were you cultivating stillness in your life?
This is funny because one of the things that, I traveled a lot.
Yes.
Didn't have cell phones. Couldn't use a phone on a plane. Couldn't use a computer on a plane back then.
Matter of fact, you were tired when they gave you a BlackBerry, right?
Oh yeah, I did. I did. I said, the hell with this.
Yeah, I remember that.
No, but I enjoyed getting on an airplane and sitting there by myself and not have to think about a thing.
So that was your form of stillness.
It was, but I did other things too.
Sure.
I mean, I read a lot.
Uh-huh.
I tried when I had the time after your kids went to bed, or I helped you with your homework, or you guys went off to college.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading fiction books.
And reading can even be a form of meditation. It could be a form of what we call flow state. Being focused on one task at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Just being in the moment.
Exactly.
Being in the word that you're reading.
There are certain authors that I felt like I was part of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just relate to what they were writing. They had just such a good way with words, and it was a written articulation.
Yeah.
Rather than speaking articulation, but a written, and I could really identify with certain authors. But the other thing I think I got quiet time, and you talk about focusing on one thing.
Yes.
I played a lot of tennis.
Sports.
And so, sports. And when I got on a tennis court, I focused on tennis, and I didn't. You have to be in the moment to hit a tennis ball. You can't be thinking about 10 other things.
Sure.
And so anytime I could get an opportunity to get my mind focused on one thing outside of work, because work sometimes was, 7 days a week. We ran plants. I ran plants that ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, you got to get away from that somehow. But but you're still getting calls in the middle of the night, problems to the plant or what have you. So you had to find some way to get away from that, or else again, you just you'd burn out. And I think that's an issue that people get into. They get burned out.
They do. more so than ever
Now,
nowadays.
there's a lot of stress on people right now.
Sure. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because I think stillness can come in many forms. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
look like a meditation. It can
Right.
look like a tennis match. It doesn't have to be necessarily stillness in the physical body, but stilling the fluctuations of the mind, right, is the really, really important piece. I think the body too has that added layer on it too. If you can start to still both, I think there's a deeper, more profound thing that starts to happen physically within your biologic, but within your own individual biology, right? So, but because I want to keep cultivating this or keep revisiting this stillness idea, because I think it's important for the listeners out there to understand that, again, it doesn't have to look like a meditation or laying down in a yoga nidra. So specifically, when you have this amazing gift to fall asleep on an airplane.
I could.
So I've tried to do this, and I'm sure many listeners out there have tried as well. For me, I have to put on either a guided meditation, a yoga nidra, a boring author, and a something that bores me. But even then, I have a very active mind, so I use these tools and techniques to help slow down the brain waves. But so when you would sit on an airplane and there was the stewardess coming down with serving your neighbor a drink, and there's somebody crackling peanuts, but we've all been on airplanes. We understand how much energy and quote unquote chaos can be in that metal tin can that you're flying through the sky. How did you turn off that and find your own peace and serenity? Because even though you may not consciously understand what you were doing, you were cultivating that inner and physical stillness.
Well, I was just able to shut my mind down.
Is there a tool, technique you used? And no can be the answer too.
No, it wasn't really anything specific.
Okay.
Except here, we used to call this, you call it stillness, we call it quiet time.
Okay.
We would say, boy, we need some quiet time. And
you would say that with your traveling partner or business,
well, nobody liked to travel and sit next to me on an airplane because I didn't talk to anybody. I slept. Right? You kids. Yeah. You kids would always,
I remember that.
You'd always want to sit with mom because she'd entertain you. I'd sit in my seat and fall asleep. And there was just something about the drone of the engine or whatever it was. I was able to just shut everything down. And so there was this thing going on, external thing going on, which helped me shut my mind down. And I think that was the white noise or whatever you get from the drone of an engine. And it just relaxed me. Yeah,
you had so many responsibilities, right, within your corporate life and with your professional life that beautiful opportunity for you to not have any distractions, right? Put away all those distractions. Put away the phone and however else the modes of communication went back then. They were very streamlined, but you didn't have that option. So it was just yourself and yourself. So I think that probably helped you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I really didn't want to sit next to anybody on a plane that I knew that well, because I could just shut myself down. That quiet time.
That's a yogic skill, even though you didn't even know that was happening.
Well, maybe, See, I'm more skilled than you think I am.
There you go.
Maybe I should come teach some of your classes.
maybe you can. That's right. So I think
how to think about nothing.
How to think about nothing, because the yogics, the yogis back in the day. So asana is the physical movements of the body. That's what that was done, so that the yogis could sit for an extended period of time and not move and meditate. So they had to exhaust their body into all these physical shapes so that they could just sit and be. Whereas you are exhausting your body physically, playing golf, doing tennis, taking care of the kids, going back and forth from work, all to the point leading up to that airplane when you had that ability just to sit and meditate and simply be. Right. I mean, it's a form of meditation. We're learning, I think, through this spreading of information across the interwebs that we're able to put different labels on things that maybe describe what's really happening to people a little bit more efficiently, rather than maybe just quiet time, like what is really happening,
I think it's easier then to shut things out because there's so much social media and so much information that comes across your iPhone or your phone. I don't want to give a commercial for Apple, but your phone and your computer and everything that your mind can just keep regurgitating all this inside itself, and you just drive yourself again you can't calm down, you can't think straight, and so back then it was a lot easier to shut things out.
Yeah.
Because now you're just inundated with information and negativity and fear, exactly, fear. That's how you rule the world, fear.
Fear is the acronym for that is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Fear. Turn on any channel these days. Actually, don't turn on the TV. That's a bad choice.
Unless you're watching golf, or football,
right? Something, yeah, exactly. So talking a little bit more about going back to your childhood, and we're talking about we're kind of leading into where we're headed down this easily accessible information, everything and anything at your fingertips 110% of the time. You have to go out of your way to seek the yogic path these days. It's not given to you, right? These are tools and techniques that are searchable, right? And after you search for them, you can seek them, but you have to eliminate the distractions. So back to your childhood, what did you have as a child that influenced you, your upbringing, or maybe the way that you think? So what did you have as a child that kids don't have today?
A family structure.
That came pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Explain a little bit more to me what that means.
Two parents working now. Back then, my dad worked, my mom stayed at home and raised the children and made sure everything was, she managed the household, quite frankly. And dad worked. And
was she the disciplinarian in your life, your mother, or was your dad more the disciplinarian?
They both were.
They both were?
They both were.
Grandpa was?
Yeah, Grandpa was too.
You can see Grandpa coming home kicking your butt.
Oh, he would.
After a long day.
Oh, he would. I mean, here's a problem I had at school, right? We lived in a small town, went to parochial school. We had, nuns as our teachers, and they didn't hold back. And you get in trouble at school. By the time I got home, my parents knew about it.
Sure.
So
nowadays we're given a trophy.
I know. I got it twice. I got it from the nun. I got it from my parents. So you did learn to, I think, have more structure, more respect for people. And if you didn't, you paid the price. Like you said, nowadays you get a trophy, right? Kids today, and I don't want to go on a rant here, but parents don't hold them responsible for things like they should be. My Johnny wouldn't do that. Well, yes, your Johnny did.
Yeah.
And you have to have that discipline in your life. That goes back to what we talked about earlier. So
I think there's an important piece there that you have to let kids live in the dirt a little bit. You just said earlier before, you have to, out of loss comes opportunity for growth, or out of struggle comes opportunity for growth.
Right.
Kids in general, they're handheld today, so much so that they get a little speck of dirt on their clean shorts. Mommy's going to lick her finger and take it off right then and there, or whatever the case may be. Right? If they're not happy about the situation, they're going to give them a piece of candy.
I know.
Right. So I think one of the greatest gifts that I had in my childhood was you allowed freedom. And I screwed up in that freedom several times. But I think out of that screwing up provided opportunities for me to grow. I don't think that those lessons necessarily landed right then and there, but they've certainly landed now. And I live my life in a way that the decisions I've made in the past are just so foreign to me now that, but I've lived down there, so it's helped me. My perspective now from where I am and seeing those places has helped tie things all together and make me understand, how the struggle can produce something. Pressure produces diamonds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you weren't a perfect teenager. Growing up, you were.
Yeah.
I mean, you were, until you got into high school, you were just very very structured,
Mm.
very concerned about making sure that you please people,
Mm.
being that right or wrong.
Yeah.
You almost overboard on that.
Yeah, I was. That still shows up in my life
I know.
today.
You got into high school,
Mm.
you got in a little bit of trouble, but nothing, I mean, there was nothing serious. I mean, it's typical teenage stuff,
Mhm.
but you did a lot of good things too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a good student, you're a good athlete, so you can overlook some of the bad things. And like you said, you can learn from it too. I mean, you spend,
Yeah.
you know, you learn consequences.
Yeah.
You do something wrong, there's consequences. So you pay the price. And that's what doesn't happen all the time now. The kids don't pay the price. You don't learn unless you pay the price.
You don't learn what the word sacrifice means either, right? So I think sacrificing yourself, your what you want for the betterment of other people is a lesson that is hard for the youth of today to learn.
Mm.
It's something I have mantras that I say to myself every single day, and I say them to myself in states where I'm having lower brain functionality, meaning lower brain waves, which is the lower brainwave state is the more like alpha theta is more of your suggestible state. So I use mantras, and one of my mantras that I use is I am here to be of service to others. So I think there's a real bit, and I learned how to be of service through others through sacrifice. So what was any unexpected sacrifices that you had to make in your life growing up that were unexpected?
Unexpected sacrifices. Well, I didn't, I guess the amount of, and I think a lot of people went through this, so the amount of work I had to do, not necessarily manual labor or anything like that, but the amount of time I had to spend working. I mean, I worked, your grandpa and grandma, we didn't come from a wealthy family by any stretch of the imagination, right? We had to work for everything. And Dad did too. And so all through high school, I worked. Played sports, but I still worked. All through college, I worked. I went to college. I, worked in cafeteria. I worked in clothing store. I did all, I always was doing something. Was it a sacrifice? I didn't look at it as a sacrifice. I looked at it as just part of growing up. Sometimes the jobs were fun, right? Hell, I worked at a sorority waiting tables. That was a great job.
I bet. I bet.
Right?
Yeah.
I worked in a clothing store, right? So I got all these nice clothes at a discount, right?
Yes.
So there, even though you had to do things, you tried to look for the best things out of them. So I never wanted for anything. We didn't make a lot of money, but I never wanted for anything. I mean, it's not like we had a new car every year. We might get a new car every 10 years, but if we always had food on the table.
Sure.
My dad worked hard. I mean, that's one thing I think I learned from my dad too, to try to pass to you kids, was the discipline of working hard, the rewards of working hard and things like that. I mean, that's important. And I think the other thing was your grandfather and your grandmother, they were both highly ethical people.
Ethics.
Right? Both. I mean, now there's good and bad of that, right? My dad didn't hold back. If he thought something was right and he thought somebody was doing something that wasn't right, and he was oftentimes correct, he let them know.
Yeah.
And he didn't hold back, right? But it was always done with respect. It was always done to carry the right message about ethics and truthfulness and morals.
Integrity.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I think, comes from religious upbringing. I think you do learn a lot of moral ethics in religion. I mean, I think that's
do not steal from thy neighbor.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah,
I mean, just basic things that you learn. I mean, just being a good person.
Sure.
I mean, that's the important thing. Just be a good person, treat people like you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had more of that, we'd be better off. So, so That's, I get, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure it does or not.
I think so. Yeah.
You know, so you ask about sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't ever look at it as a major
Yeah.
sacrifice, what I had to do.
Sacrifice is something that I've had to learn, right? And for me, the word sacrifice it means a lot of things, like I was explaining before. But it also means to me, it means whenever I sacrifice something, right around the corner from that sacrifice is happiness for me. So I think there's something that's interconnected between sacrificing something that would be maybe necessarily only good for you for something that's good for the greater good of the whole, of the collective. So not putting yourself first, putting yourself in as a part of the collective, right?
Mhm.
So that's something that's been really advantageous for me and all the listeners out there as well. I like to try to tie this into you too, that the more areas in your life that you can seek to do things for other people, sacrifice, whatever that means for you, I think the more opportunities you'll have to start to separate yourself from your own suffering and see that the sacrifice, in the sacrifice lies happiness. I spent a lot of my life suffering, and that was self-induced, by only thinking that I was the center of everything, the center of the universe, the center of everything. And I now believe that I'm the center of the collective, meaning the whole collective is a part of me.
Mhm.
So the more that I can do things, sacrifice moments of time and focus on bettering, maybe if it's just one person I'm working with at that specific time, or coaching somebody through an ice bath, or leading a private yoga session, or a group of people,
Mhm.
like doing something for the betterment of all makes me feel amazing. So I'd offer that to you out there.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a valid point. I
Yeah.
think you do make sacrifice is allowing yourself to give to other people,
Yeah.
because you're just not always thinking about yourself. And I think you have to do that to be a whole person, right?
You do.
And to love yourself.
To love yourself.
I mean, you have to do things like that. Otherwise, you become, like you said, very self-centered, and you think only about yourself, and you really don't love yourself at that point.
Exactly.
You're just doing it because it's
So
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And so this is a really good opportunity just to thank you here in a public forum for the sacrifices you've made for me and the sacrifices you've made for our family. I'm now paying those forward. So the sacrifices that you have made are then manifesting through me into other people.
That's good.
So my father, Steve, who's right here, he was, when I quit the corporate life, right, that corporate path that I was headed down, I think unconsciously I was following in your footsteps, because it's the only thing I saw, right, and I thought that was the only way. So I felt a lot of resistance every step in that corporate life that I was living in. It never felt right to me. It just felt off.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for having the faith, and I don't know if I want to use any other word other than pure faith in
fortitude,
in trusting me in where my heart was telling me to go down this yogic path. Because when I pivoted and said, I'm going to be financially unstable for the next couple of years, I need your support while I move through yogic school.
Yeah, I know.
You were like, what?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we've made it around that corner full circle now. And it feels really good to be able to sit in this forum with you 6 inches away from your beautiful nose and tell you how deeply in gratitude I am for that trust, because although I am not, although I just grateful where I am today.
Okay, that's cool.
And it's been a
hey, it wasn't easy for me. I mean, yeah, you said a lot. I did, but I was concerned that you.
What were you concerned of the most?
If this just wasn't another tangent in your life, you've had a lot of tangents in your life.
Shh.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding.
I know. No,
Just kidding.
No, I mean, no. I mean,
Yeah.
you had a number of different jobs.
Yes.
and if you remember correctly, and I don't know if I should bring this up or not, you were going to be a DJ.
Yeah.
You went to
that's
DJ
fair.
school, right?
Sure. Uh-huh.
So I thought
That was just, folks, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen out there, that was just before I decided to go down this yoga.
right. It was. So I
Trying to
thought,
figure myself out.
yeah, and that's fine. I mean, we all go through that, right? I mean, we all go through that. So I thought, boy, is this just another tangent, or should I, stick with him? And I think I could see you were fully committed to it. And so I did stick. I mean, I was able to stick with you, and unfortunately, I could support you. I think that's the important thing.
It was more than just the financials. It was the space that you held for the unknown.
Yeah.
The space that I needed to heal, which is what this yogic path has been for me than anything else. It's allowed me to heal, like heal from just being a human being, like not only just heal from mom's accident, not heal from my behavior after the accident, not healing my entire organism, like mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. I was confused, as many people are in this world, from a function of just being a human being. There was no reason why I was confused. I was raised in this beautiful family with all this love and all the support. There was no reason why I should be the way that I am, but I just was. So the yogic path, and it's out there for anybody, it's there to heal. And while you're healing yourself, right, you're healing not only yourself, but you're healing generations behind you. So I can sense, Dad, that when we speak, now I am adopted, although we're not blood related, right? There is a deep connection. And I do feel on some sort of spiritual level that my work is helping to heal some of your karma, some of Uncle Mike's karma, some of the people, lineage of our family that goes on. I truly believe that, because I have seen a softening in your heart, and an opening of your heart space that I never saw before. Right? I mean, I came up where, there was love was shown in a different way for me, for me growing up. So it's been so the invitation out there is to do the work yourself, for yourself, but do it for people that you love. Because the more that I do that, the more that I get out of this isn't for me. This is for you. This is for Mom. This is for Danielle. This is for my blood that I don't even know who the family members are. Yeah. Like, that's who it's for. Yeah. Because I feel like, again, we're going to the sacrifice piece. It's kind of becoming the reoccurring engine behind this, which is beautiful. So the invitation is out there for you all, is to the yogic path is there to heal, and it's helped to.
Look, I will say, nowadays, with all the pressure and stress and everything that people are under at this point in time, I mean, again, I think I lived in it was still stressful growing up for me, but it's a less stressful life than it is now. And I think anything that can help somebody get through this, if it's the yogic path, if it's talking to friends, if it's loving yourself,
it's the religious path,
if it's investing in yourself, it's a spiritual path, whatever you want to say, take it.
Yes.
Because it ain't the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
And you need as much. You do need a lot of help.
Yeah. Structure,
organization, mental discipline.
Yes.
You need all that now.
You do.
Wasn't easy growing up, but we face different problems, I think, and than what people face today.
With all this information out there, there's two ways you can go. The information can be used for two ways. It can do a lot of good, or it can do a lot of bad. But it's your job to find ways to decipher what works and what doesn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an Instagram feed, right? My Instagram feed, in true confession, when I first had Instagram, it used to be, well, what you would find in a 35-year-old man's Instagram feed. Like, let's be honest, it was pictures of women, it was pictures of clubbing, it was pictures of, girls in bikinis. It was all these things that created mind stuff for me, chitta, like created anxiety inside me. So like what I'm trying to say is I've taken all of the Instagram accounts that you could ever imagine out in the world, and I've brought those all back down to the 100 or 200 people that I follow, but all their information serves my highest and my best. I'm not even allowing myself to dive into the temptation of looking at a girl in a bikini, because it doesn't serve my highest and my best. Right. So what I'm trying to say out there is that the information is so vast, but that also leaves you more opportunities to go down rabbit holes that may not serve you.
Oh, there's information overload.
Overload.
I mean, my God, people just inundate themselves with these things, and they just their mind just never stops.
Never stops.
And you got to have quiet time. Go back to you call it what do you call it?
Stillness?
Stillness.
Yeah.
I call it quiet time.
There you go.
And I tell you need more quiet time now than you used to.
You do. You do. And people are probably wanting some quiet time after listening to this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. My boring life.
Not at all. No, I think this has been really, really beautiful. We're coming up to an hour now. So
already?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
See, time warps on these podcasts, man. It's beautiful. So I got just a couple of questions to tie everything together. And then I'll leave it up to you to see if you have any questions for me.
Okay.
No, I didn't rehearse this. He said to me right before we got on air that, well, why didn't you send me any questions to prep for? You didn't need that, Dad. It was perfect, just the way it was. All right. So this last one is a general question. It comes a little bit has some theming around the yogic path, right? So, yeah. So what the yogic path is meant to me, right, is saying yes to my highest and my best, to things that serve me so that I can serve others in truth. What has most influenced your journey? Things you've said no to or things you've said yes to?
Well, things that I said no to, particularly in my college days, was drugs. Now, today they're not considered to be, that offensive or.
Today, some are considered medicine.
I know, exactly. But back then they weren't. And so,
and you follow rules. You were in that structure you were talking
about. I followed
about.
the rules.
Yeah.
So I said no to drugs. I said no to, I had some friends that used to get in a lot of trouble. I broke away from them, said no to that.
What were you really saying no to in those specific instances? Do you remember? Were you saying no to a feeling inside your stomach?
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
No question about that. It was how did I want to view myself? How did I want to think about myself? And I didn't want to be associated with people like that and what they were doing. So, I walked away and I had a different set of friends. I mean, it was hard. I came from a small town. And so if you walked away from one group of friends, there weren't a lot of other people out there. But you did it. And, then you go to college and then everything changes again and you become part of a big group and, you have a lot more choices back then about who your friends can be and things like that. So, I said no there.
So we got 2 no's so far.
2 no's.
Yeah. What about anything yes that influenced your journey? Something you said yes to that looking back on it, you're very thankful you said yes. And there was maybe a no that was in that.
Oh yeah, there was a no there for sure.
Yeah. Tell me.
I went to school to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
Decided after 3.5 years, I did not want to be an engineer.
Wow. Didn't know this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said, I just do not want to do that type of work the rest of my life. So I said, I'm going to change. And I ended up going to graduate school.
Where at?
Indiana University. I got an MBA there. And that was a major change because I went another 2 years of school without an income. Your mom and I were married during that time, so we didn't have any money, but it was the right thing for me to do and for us to do as a family because it certainly opened up a lot more doors for me. So,
and that was going to be a no.
Oh yeah,
the grad school was going to be a no.
It was.
Yeah.
It was going to be.
Were you going to find employment just after
Purdue?
Yeah.
I was gonna find employment,
Yeah.
and I got several job offers, and
Wow.
none of them appealed to me. And I said, I'm not gonna. I don't want to make money. You got to love what you do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've always believed in that.
Definitely.
And I did not see myself as an engineer or doing some of the things that I was offered opportunities to do. So I said, I'll just go to graduate school, and I did. And we struggled during that time. We had no money, but we made it, and it turned out to be the right thing to do.
One of the biggest things that I had, one of the things that I struggled with in this decision to kind of go veer off from the corporate path was whether or not, well, I knew it was right for me, but I was concerned about, what your interpretation of what was right for me was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting how that you in that moment of decision, you were already thinking about sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You were already thinking about the greater good of your family before you even had one.
Yeah.
That's pretty profound.
I don't know how profound it was. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I mean,
it's a beautiful awareness to have. That I think subconsciously that word sacrifice is like keeps coming up because it's something you did so effortlessly, Dad.
Well, back then.
And for the kids, for me and Beth and that's my sister and all the things, like, so thank you for your sacrifice.
Well, it didn't seem like that much of a sacrifice, quite frankly. It just seemed like you do the right thing, and usually things work out.
How do you know what the right thing to do is?
You have a conscience.
That leads you
follow your conscience. It comes down to that. Think about what
does your conscience mean to you? Like, what does that mean?
It's your moral compass.
Okay.
It tells you which way to go, the right way and the wrong way to go.
Is there for me, my moral compass is like a feeling inside my body.
Yeah. I mean,
do you have a feeling inside your body when you know it's when you're on
well, you do. Of course you do. I mean,
what does that feel like for you?
What's it feel like?
Yeah. Describe the sensation inside your physical body. Do you feel something inside your body?
I feel it in my mind.
What do you feel in your mind?
That I'm doing the right thing.
But what is it? Is there a sense? I'm looking for, is there a
sensation?
Yeah. When I feel like I'm doing something that's for my highest and my best, I get little butterflies, almost like, ooh, this feel good.
Makes me feel good.
Okay.
Makes me feel good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I can say, you talk about doing the best in things for yourself.
Yeah.
One of the classes I took in college was a philosophy class.
Uh-huh.
And they talk about, I don't know if you probably know the Maslow's hierarchy.
Sure. Of needs.
Right? Of needs.
Yeah.
Right.
Patrick and I just spoke. What's up, Patrick? I haven't mentioned your name yet, man, but this is,
hello, Patrick. So self-actualization is at the pinnacle of the Maslow's hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pyramid with basic needs. And as you go up the pyramid, you get to self-actualization, where you're actually satisfying your own needs, what you want out of life. You're taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And taking care of yourself means taking care of the people around you too, and loving the people around you and loving yourself. I mean, that's all part of self-actualization. So I think that was that opened my eyes. That one philosophy class opened my
Interesting.
eyes a lot
Interesting.
to your basic, your basic, I guess, conscience.
Yeah.
So that
Your consciousness.
consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my next question and my last question.
Yeah.
See how this is all tying together without even rehearsing one damn thing?
It better be an easy question.
This is not.
It's going on for.
This
My mind is starting to blow here.
this
I haven't spoken this long since I've been retired.
Well, good. This is good exercise for your mind then. So what is your definition of, we talk a lot about on Becoming Legendary, what it means to be conscious, like aware in this human form that we live in. And everybody has a different definition of consciousness. So what is your definition of consciousness, or what it means to be alive?
Living a life that you give back to society what they have given to you. Living a life that you give love to other people. Living a life that where you invest in yourself and your family. Living a life where you don't worry about measuring yourself against other people.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's consciousness, I think, and it goes back to your moral compass. You know, how do you want to live your life? It's pretty simple. You know, you do the right thing. Pretty simple. Easier said than done, though.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay, it was fun. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you for being my son.
Thanks for being my dad.
Okay.
And to all your listeners out there.
Yeah, all the listeners. Yeah.
Appreciate you taking time. And we'll be back next week or next month for another special edition of Becoming Legendary.